People always ask me about market crashes, inflation cycles, geopolitical risks, but here's what keeps me awake at night. 40% of Americans will work until they die. Not by choice. They have no other option. And if you're under 50, you're in even more danger than they are. I've been managing money for almost 5 decades now. I've seen every kind of crisis, every kind of boom and bust. But what I'm witnessing today in retirement planning isn't just a crisis. It's a systematic destruction of the American dream, and most people have no idea it's happening to them. Let me tell you something that shocked me when I first saw the data. The median retirement savings for Americans age 55-64 is $120,000. $120,000. Do you know what that buys you in retirement? About $400 a month. $400. That won't even cover your health insurance, let alone food, housing, and basic necessities. But here's what's truly terrifying. That's the median for people who actually have retirement savings. Nearly half of all Americans have zero. Nothing. They're planning to work until they physically cannot, then depend entirely on Social Security. And Social Security, it's projected to run out of money by 2034. I learned about cycles the hard way in the 1970s. I was young, arrogant, thought I understood everything about markets. Then the monetary system completely changed when Nixon took us off the gold standard. Everything I thought I knew became obsolete overnight. But that taught me something crucial. Every 40-50 years, the fundamental structures of society get rebuilt, and we're in one of those periods right now. The retirement system as we know it is ending. Not gradually, not slowly. It's collapsing in real time. And just like in the 1970s, most people are too focused on day-to-day market movements to see the massive structural shift happening beneath their feet. Here's how we got here. For most of human history, people worked until they died. Retirement was a luxury for the wealthy. Then, in the 1930s, something revolutionary happened. Social Security was created. For the first time in history, ordinary workers could expect to stop working in their later years and still have income. But Social Security wasn't meant to be a complete retirement plan. It was designed to be supplemented by employer pensions, and for about 40 years, from the 1940s to the 1980s, this system worked beautifully. Workers could expect a decent pension from their employer plus Social Security. Retirement was secure, then everything changed. In the 1980s, companies started eliminating pensions. They were expensive, they created long-term liabilities, they reduced corporate flexibility. Instead, companies shifted to 401k plans. They told workers, here, manage your own retirement. We'll match a small percentage of what you contribute, but the rest is up to you. This was the beginning of the end. Because here's what companies didn't tell workers. Managing retirement money is incredibly difficult. It requires decades of disciplined saving, sophisticated investment knowledge, and the emotional discipline to ride out multiple market crashes without panicking. Most people don't have these skills. Why would they? They're teachers, firefighters, nurses, engineers. They're experts in their fields, not in portfolio management. But suddenly we expected everyone to become professional investors for their own retirement. The results are predictable and devastating. Study after study shows that individual investors underperform professional investors by 3-4% annually. That might not sound like much, but over 30 years, that's the difference between a comfortable retirement and working until you die. At Bridgewater, we manage money for some of the largest pension funds in the world. These institutional investors have teams of PhDs, sophisticated risk management systems, and access to investment opportunities that ordinary people can't even imagine. And they struggle to generate consistent returns. Yet somehow, we expect a nurse working 12-hour shifts to outperform them with her 401k. It's insane, it's systemically broken, and it's getting worse. Because now we have a new problem: longevity risk. People are living longer than ever before. If you retire at 65 today, there's a 50% chance you'll live past 90, a 25% chance you'll live past 95. That's potentially 30 years of retirement. 30 years. Do you know how much money you need to support yourself for 30 years? If you need $40,000 per year in retirement income, and you live 30 years, that's $1.2 million, and that's in today's dollars. With inflation, it's much more. But wait, it gets worse. Healthcare costs are exploding. The average retiree will spend over $300,000 on healthcare during retirement. Some will spend much more. Long-term care alone can cost $100,000 per year. These costs are growing faster than general inflation, faster than wage growth, faster than investment returns. Meanwhile, Social Security is becoming less reliable every year. The trust fund is projected to be exhausted by 2034. When that happens, benefits will be automatically cut by about 25%. So if you're counting on Social Security for $2,000 per month, plan on $1,500. And here's the part that really concerns me, the demographic time bomb. The baby boomers are retiring in massive numbers. About 10,000 people turn 65 every single day in America. They're living longer than previous generations, they have higher healthcare costs, and many haven't saved enough. They're going to drain the system. Meanwhile, the working age population isn't growing fast enough to support them. We have fewer workers per retiree than ever before. In 1950, there were 16 workers supporting each Social Security beneficiary. Today, there are less than 3. By 2030, there will be 2. This is unsustainable. The math doesn't work. Something has to give. Now, I've seen this pattern before. Not exactly this scenario, but the broader cycle. Every 40-50 years, major social and economic structures break down and get rebuilt. We saw it in the 1930s with the Great Depression and the creation of Social Security. We saw it in the 1970s with the breakdown of the monetary system and the shift from pensions to 401ks. And we're seeing it now. The retirement system is breaking down. The question isn't whether it will be rebuilt. It will be. The question is, what will replace it? And will you be prepared for the transition? Because here's what history teaches us. During these transition periods, some people thrive and some people get crushed. The ones who thrive are the ones who see the change coming and position themselves accordingly. The ones who get crushed are the ones who keep following the old rules long after they've stopped working. Right now, most people are still following the old rules. They're putting money in their 401k, hoping it will somehow be enough. They're buying stocks and bonds, the same 60-40 portfolio their parents used. They're planning to retire at 65 and live off their savings for 20-30 years. These old rules don't work anymore. They worked when people lived shorter lives, when healthcare was cheaper, when pensions provided guaranteed income, when Social Security was stable. But none of those conditions exist today. So what are the new rules? That's what I want to talk about next. But first, you need to understand just how urgent this situation is. I'm not talking about a problem that might develop over the next 20 years. I'm talking about a crisis that's happening right now. Every day you delay adapting to the new reality is a day you're falling further behind. Think about it this way. If you're 40 years old today, you have 25 years until traditional retirement age. If you're following the old rules, putting 10% of your income into a traditional 401k invested in a 60-40 portfolio, you're not going to have enough money to retire, not even close. The math is simple and brutal. Let's say you make $75,000 per year and save 10% annually in your 401k. That's $7,500 per year. Even if you get decent returns, 7% annually, after 25 years you'll have about $500,000. Sounds like a lot, right? Wrong. By the time you retire, inflation will have eroded the purchasing power of that money significantly, and $500,000 will generate maybe $20,000, $25,000 per year in safe withdrawal rates. Combined with reduced Social Security benefits, you're looking at maybe $35,000, $40,000 per year in retirement income. Could you live on $35,000 per year today? Could you pay for housing, food, healthcare, transportation, and everything else with less than $3,000 per month? In most parts of the country, that's not even enough to cover housing costs. And remember, healthcare costs are going to be much higher when you retire. That $300,000 lifetime healthcare cost I mentioned, that's in today's dollars. By the time you retire, it could easily be $500,000 or more. This is the reality facing most Americans under 50. They're on a collision course with poverty and old age, and most of them don't even realize it. But here's what gives me hope. This crisis is also creating opportunities. Massive opportunities. Because while the old system is breaking down, a new system is emerging. And the people who understand this new system and position themselves accordingly are going to be fine. More than fine, they're going to thrive. The new retirement reality requires 4 fundamental shifts in how you think about and invest for retirement. These aren't minor adjustments. These are completely different approaches that most people haven't even heard of yet. First, you need inflation-protected assets that maintain their purchasing power over decades. not just stocks, which can be volatile, but assets specifically designed to keep pace with inflation. Second, you need ownership stakes in the infrastructure that powers the modern economy, the kind of assets that generate steady cash flows regardless of what happens in the stock market. Third, you need to understand that the old geographic and asset class boundaries are disappearing. The future of wealth creation isn't just in public stocks and bonds, it's in private assets, digital assets, global assets that most people can't even access yet. And fourth, you need income-generating assets that can support you for potentially 35 to 40 years of retirement, not the 10-15 years that previous generations planned for. These aren't exotic investment strategies. They're not get-rich-quick schemes. They're systematic approaches to building sustainable wealth over decades. But they require you to think differently about retirement planning than your parents or grandparents did. At Bridgewater, we've been helping institutional investors implement these strategies for years. Pension funds, sovereign wealth funds, endowments. They all use these approaches. That's why they consistently outperform individual investors. They understand that the old rules have changed. But until recently, these strategies weren't available to ordinary investors. They were locked behind minimum investment requirements of millions of dollars. They were the exclusive domain of the ultra-wealthy and large institutions. That's changing. The barriers are coming down, and over the next few years, ordinary investors are going to have access to the same tools and strategies that have been generating superior returns for institutions. But here's the critical point. The early adopters are going to have a massive advantage. Just like with any major transition, the people who move first get the best opportunities. The people who wait until everyone else figures it out get whatever's left. This isn't just about investment returns, though. That's important. This is about dignity in old age. This is about not being a burden on your children. This is about having choices in your 70s and 80s instead of being forced to work or depend on an inadequate social safety net. I've seen what happens to people who don't plan properly for retirement. I've watched brilliant, successful people who thought they were doing everything right suddenly realize in their 60s that they don't have enough money to stop working. I've seen them downsize their homes, move to cheap estates, give up hobbies and travel plans they'd looked forward to for decades. It's heartbreaking, and it's completely preventable. But prevention requires action. It requires you to stop following the old playbook and start preparing for the new reality. Because the new reality is coming whether you're ready or not. The question is, will you be one of the people who thrives during this transition, or one of the people who gets left behind? The choice is yours. But the window for making that choice is closing faster than most people realize. And the real danger isn't just that you might not have enough money for retirement. The real danger is that this crisis is going to accelerate the wealth gap in ways we've never seen before. The people who adapt to the new system are going to build enormous wealth. The people who don't are going to fall further and further behind. This isn't just about individual retirement planning anymore. This is about the future structure of American society. And what's coming next will determine whether we maintain a broad middle class or split into a small group of wealthy retirees and a large group of people who can never afford to stop working. The cycle is already in motion. The only question is which side of it you're going to be on.